You know, when we think about World War II, we picture these epic battles with tanks and planes. But behind the front lines, there was a completely different war being fought, a secret war. This one wasn't about guns or bombs. It was a battle of minds, fought with pure mathematics and incredible machines. And this hidden battle would ultimately decide the fate of millions.
To really get this, you have to understand the German war machine. It was a terrifyingly efficient force. From the U-boats prowling the Atlantic to the panzers rolling across France, everything was coordinated by a single code, a code they believed was absolutely, mathematically, unbreakable. If you could crack it, you could read the enemy's mind. But if you failed, well, failure meant total darkness and almost certain defeat.
So what was this secret weapon, this key that unlocked Germany's military power? It all came down to one single, ingenious, and incredibly complicated machine.
Germany's whole strategy, their Blitzkrieg, or lightning war, was all about speed and coordination. You've got tanks, planes, and soldiers all moving at once, and they have to talk to each other instantly over radio. But radio signals can be intercepted by anyone, right? So to protect these vital messages, they relied on a device called the Enigma.
Okay, picture this. You're a German radio operator. You type out a message, say, "Attack at dawn." But for every letter you press, a different letter lights up. The machine just scrambled your message into total gibberish. That's what you send out over Morse code. Now, as long as the person on the other end has their Enigma machine set up in the exact same way, they can type in that gibberish, and out comes your original message, "Attack at dawn." It's brilliant.
But here's what made it seem unbreakable: the sheer numbers. Inside this machine, you had these spinning wheels called rotors that would scramble the alphabet with every single key press. Then there was a plug board that swapped letters around before they even got to the rotors. All told, the number of possible daily settings was 150 quintillion. That's a 150 with 18 zeros after it. To the Allies, it wasn't just a code, it was a mathematical fortress.
Now you'd think the British or the Americans would be the ones to crack this thing, right? Well, here's the first huge twist in the story. The first cracks in this fortress didn't come from London or Washington. They came from Warsaw, Poland.
So back in 1931, this German guy, Hans Thilo Schmidt, was unhappy with his job and needed cash. So he just walks into the French embassy in Berlin and offers to sell Germany's biggest secrets, including the instruction manuals for the Enigma machine. The French and the British kind of looked at these manuals and shrugged. They didn't think it was enough to break the code. But Poland was staring right across the border at a Germany that was getting bigger and scarier by the day. They didn't have the luxury of being skeptical. They immediately gave the documents to their cipher bureau and put 3 of their best young mathematicians on the case.
And what they achieved was just incredible. One of them, a genius named Marian Reshaped, used the stolen info and some brilliant math to figure out the machine's internal wiring, something the Allies thought was impossible. By 1938, the Poles were reading about 75% of German messages. But then, disaster. Germany upgraded the machine, added more rotors, more complexity. Suddenly, the Polish methods didn't work anymore. With an invasion about to happen, they made a heroic choice. They decided to share absolutely everything they knew with the British and French.
And that's when the fight shifts. Thanks to that massive head start from the Poles, the action now moves to a quiet, unassuming country house north of London called Bletchley Park. This place would become the top secret nerve center for Britain's code-breaking operation.
The British started rounding up who they called men of the professor type. This wasn't a job for soldiers. No, they needed oddballs, geniuses, crossword puzzle wizards, and brilliant mathematicians like Alan Turing, a man whose work wouldn't just change the war, but would literally create the field of computer science. So here's the absolute key to this whole story. Building on what the Poles gave them, the team at Bletchley Park figured out that the real weakness wasn't a flaw in the machine's design. The Enigma machine itself was a masterpiece. The flaw was human. It was in the procedures the German operators were told to follow. Here's how it worked. Every day, an operator would pick a random 3-letter key for his message, let's say WXY. Now, the German rulebook, trying to prevent errors, said he had to encrypt that 3-letter key twice at the very start of his message. It was a fail-safe, but that repetition, that little stutter, created a tiny, predictable pattern. And for these code breakers, a pattern was like a key in a lock. By exploiting that tiny human mistake, in January of 1940, they did it. Bletchley Park broke in. For the first time, the Allies were reading German military communications, sometimes just a few hours after they were sent. It was a complete game changer, an unbelievable intelligence victory. But
the celebration didn't last long. Just 4 months later, the absolute worst thing happened. Right before the invasion of France, Germany changed its procedures. They stopped that double encryption at the start of the message. And just like that, the window they had into the German war machine slammed shut. Bletchley Park was completely blind again.
I mean, can you imagine the panic? This crucial source of intelligence was just gone, and it happened at the most dangerous moment of the war. The race was back on, and this time, the stakes were even higher. They had to find a new way in before all of Europe fell.
The pressure must have been absolutely immense. But the solution, when it came, was the same story all over again. The breakthrough didn't come from outsmarting the machine. It came from outsmarting the men who used it.
A 21-year-old mathematician named John Harival had this brilliant idea. He basically just thought, okay, imagine you're a German operator. It's cold, it's early, you're tired. Are you really going to pick a truly random starting position for the machine's rotors? Or are you just going to pick something easy, something lazy? Maybe just move the rotors a few clicks from where they were yesterday. This psychological guess, which they called the Harival tip, was their new way back in.
And they got back in just in the nick of time. In the summer of 1940, Hitler's Air Force, the Luftwaffe, began its all-out assault on Great Britain. Their goal was to wipe out the Royal Air Force, the RAF, to clear the way for a full-scale invasion. The RAF was desperately outnumbered, but they had a secret weapon. They had the intelligence from Bletchley Park, which now had a top-secret codename, Ultra.
Because they were reading the Luftwaffe's Enigma messages again, the RAF knew everything. They knew the bomber routes, they knew the targets. They could put their few fighters in the exact right place at the exact right time to ambush the enemy. They could jam German navigation systems and give cities precious extra minutes of warning to get people into shelters.
In the end, ultra-intelligence allowed a much smaller force to fight with deadly efficiency. It was absolutely decisive. The Luftwaffe couldn't win control of the skies, and Hitler's plan to invade Britain had to be called off forever. The secret war fought by the codebreakers had literally saved their country.
The story of Enigma is just such a powerful reminder that no matter how complex your security system is, whether it's a WWI encryption machine or your online passwords today, the strongest digital locks can often be picked because of simple, predictable human habits. It really makes you think, in our incredibly advanced digital world, has anything really changed? What's the real weak point? The technology or the person sitting in front of the screen?